And then we're going to press the next button. So many buttons. I know. So many buttons. I know. All right. Fair enough. And then we're going to go to the title.
All right. Just remember what I've taught you.
What the fuck is that?
Hey, yo.
Oh boy. Oh boy. We're here yet again doing this thing. Oh, wow. Just wow. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be back in your ears. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you're doing well. This is the Writer's Chat for December the 8th. I know, December's here. Wow. And through no fault of my own, I continue to be John Adamus, the writer next door. So, ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, doers, dreamers, butt enthusiasts, dancers, cookie eaters, sweater owners, slipper owners, anybody who understands the magic and power of, like, nachos. The entire group of people currently unionizing all across the world. A large number of the people looking to make the world a brighter, happier, better place through the power of collective everything. And most importantly, the comrades. It's wonderful to see you. It's fantastic to be here. I'm so pleased. And I genuinely hope that tonight, certainly more so than Monday, genuinely tonight, we have a legitimately good time. And if this is the first time you're hearing this and you're wondering what the shit is going on, here's exactly what's going on. This is the Writer's Chat. And what basically that means is I'm going to sit here for a couple hours talking into this microphone and answer your questions about writing, editing, publishing, marketing, having a career creatively, doing all different kinds of stuff, and generally, try to make the world nice for art and stuff. Such is my mission. Here we are. And we're going to start tonight, as we have started the last couple weeks, with a slight little artist spotlight, if you will indulge me. If you will allow me to use this platform, such as it is, to put a spotlight on artists and writers and makers and doers who I think most definitely need your support, your attention, would make the world, better for them if we were to give them a moment and check them out. And tonight we're looking at an author, a good friend of mine named Jesse Pullman, who is normally in chat here, enjoying this entire three-ring circus of whatever this is. But I have to tell you this, and I'm not sure if it's really bad to say, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Jesse recently lost his father, and from what I gather, it's hardcore and it's heavy duty for him. And if you could out there just take a moment and follow him on Twitter at jpullman, JPOHLMAN writing, WRITING, J Pullman writing. Follow him on Twitter, and then jump over to his website, check out his work, jpullmanwriting.com. And just support people. Support artists. Help writers live better, do better. And please know that everybody over here at Writer Next Door and everything I include do send Jesse as much support as he would be comfortable receiving so that he might have a truly better, happier experience. And I hope the grief is soon and fast replaced with comfort, memory, and peace. Jesse, come back soon. I hope you're doing okay. I miss you. And everybody go check out his work. Follow him on Twitter. He's awesome. Also, he's relatively local to me, so, you know, if you ever want to, like, hang out with New York people, there you go. There's one of them. Enjoy. Yeah, I know it's kind of a downer, but Jesse most definitely needs our support, so let's do what we can do to support him, shall we? Takes 2 seconds to be nice. Makes the world a difference. Let's give it a shot. Now, that said, I've got something new for you tonight. See, because normally what happens is we immediately jump into 12 questions. But tonight I got something new. Tonight we are debuting questions from WhatsApp. And one day, I promise you, one day I'm going to figure out what button I have to press to make the microphone do the echoey thing, because I just think something tremendous would be cool for my weird, dorky giddiness. But tonight we're doing questions from WhatsApp. Yes, the writer next door is on WhatsApp. You just need to ask me for it. And I'm happy to answer questions from there, just like I'm happy to answer questions really from anywhere, because two things. One, I like to hear myself talk. And two, I'm always happy to help people get better at writing. And, well, you know, we're debuting this thing tonight. Much like we the other night had questions from Discord, now we have questions from WhatsApp. I have to say, these questions, they raise the bar pretty high. And if we were talking whether or not they were spicy questions, oh man, put a couple different, like, small flickering fires or red chili peppers or little stars by this, because our WhatsApp questions are spicy. We begin with question 1 from WhatsApp. Hey, John, how do you keep going when it feels like the weight of your dreams and everything you want to accomplish and everything you want to happen is literally crushing the breath from your lungs? Can you just tell that was written by a writer? Can you just get a palpable sense of the mix of hyperbole, despair, panic, and tension in that? Do you see how much of an artist question that is? How do you keep going when you feel like the weight of your dreams is ripping the oxygen from you? Well, okay, look. When you feel like that, when you feel absolutely compressed, weighed down, bogged down, tied down, not in a fun way, by what you feel and how you feel it, and how badly you want to get wherever it is you want to get for whatever success you want to have, I need you to know, I need you to know that you are not, first of all, you're not alone in that feeling. To some degree, every writer you can think of, every writer you know, all those you don't know, every famous one you can ever imagine has felt this feeling. And I want that feeling, first of all, to bring you comfort. The sense that you are not alone in this, that you were not the first writer out there to sit and say, oh God, I don't know, this is exhausting. I want so badly to succeed. I want so badly to do well. This is just absolutely so difficult. What am I going to do? And when you feel that, and when you can't help but feel it, and you think it's just going to smother you, I want you to think about long car rides. Because I love long car rides. I love long car rides. It's absolute freedom for me, not just because I get to listen to my audiobook unmolested, and not just because since I'm driving, I'm in charge of what I get to listen to, but because long car rides for me are a real expression of freedom with a very, very clear thing I can track. I can track progress. Because here's the funny thing about a long car ride. I don't know if you're a big fan of car rides, but I love them. And one thing I really like about them is stopping for gas. And I know that sounds dumb, but I grew up in a portion of the United States where other human beings pumped your gas for you. So when I began to travel, whether it's for work or social reasons or whatever, to find out that I had to pump my own gas was a bit of a shock. And to this day, I've been driving now 30-something years. To this day, I enjoy pumping my own gas. But there's a real benefit to that. There's a real Benny here for this, because when I get out of that car, I can look left and I can look right. And I can look left and see where I've been. And I can look right and see where I still have to go. And if I'm in the car while I'm driving and I think about, oh my God, I have so many more hours, so many more miles, another couple states, another couple this, another couple that, the journey to my destination, because I badly want to get to my destination, the journey to my destination seems endless. And it seems like I'll never get there. Not just because there's a truck in front of me or somebody doing 20 miles under the speed limit. But if I stop and think about my progress while I'm making progress, the journey seems to take forever. But it's when I stop and get out and go to refuel. When I have a moment where the car's not in motion, where I'm not in motion, and I can just stand there for a minute, and I can look back and go, God, I've come this far. Neat. I'm at this weird, skeevy, strange little roadside place, and I have this much further to go. I'm able to evaluate my progress, and all of a sudden, I stand up a little bit straighter. I get a little bit of air back in my lungs. I feel a little taller. I feel a little better. The world seems a little bit brighter. Why? Because I'm able to mark my progress. The smothering sensation of, oh my God, I'm going to be doing this forever. I'm never going to get where I want to go. This is taking forever, has dissipated slightly because I'm in charge of marking my progress. That means everything to me. Because I will drive 14, 16 hours. It's physically and mentally not good, but I can do it and I enjoy doing it. But you need to cross a long journey where you know you're going to get your goal. You want your goal very, very badly for whatever reason, no matter what that goal is. You are desperate to get there. You need to be able to stop and look at your progress. And the more progress you can point to having been made, the more you can say you are closer to your destination. I've come this far. I only have this much farther to go. And every time you stop to refill the car, every time you do something to recharge the batteries, reposition, reconfigure, re-prepare yourself for success, you make it that much easier to get closer to your goal. So what do you do when you feel like the weight of everything is going to come crashing down and smother you and snuff you out like a Christmas candle? You think about the long car ride. You think about how you're going to refuel. You think about how you've come this far and done the things you've done. And rather than getting cranky and hostile with yourself about, oh, well, it's not enough and I didn't get there fast enough, there's still so much more to do. How about you take a second and say something nice and celebrate the fact that you've come this far? I know for some people that might be a real foreign concept, but I'm going to strongly encourage you to practice it because it's going to make a difference. And that's how we're starting. That's the spicy first question. That's where the bar is set tonight, ladies, gentlemen, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Let's go look at the second question from WhatsApp, shall we? It's a craft question, so knock some of the spice off. How do you know when a chapter should end? Do you automatically know you have to break it midway through to create artificial structure? Or should you look for natural structure? And this is a thing, so we're going to define some terms. Artificial structure is where you impose a break on a scene, like creating cliffhanger. Like when a TV show cuts to black and goes to commercial. It's not necessarily the best place to stop because the actions have stopped, but it's the best place to stop because we're trying to get that viewer on our TV show to keep watching. And we break for a cliffhanger because we're trying to keep that reader like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? I got to turn the page and find out. That's artificial structure. Natural structure is, hey, this set of actions is done. Whether it's a lot of actions, big actions, little actions, whatever, some set of actions is complete. It makes sense, not only with the passage of time, but the completion of activity to move things forward. I.e., it's, night and now we go to bed. It's morning, we wake up. Now we're going to go do a thing where we can skip listing the activities. And there's a natural reason to break. There's a natural logic to it. That's natural structure. When you're writing whatever you're writing, no matter the genre, no matter the age range of the reader, no matter the complexity, no matter the whatever, you are forever going to be choosing between an artificial structure and a natural structure when it comes to ending your chapters. Because remember, a chapter can be whatever size it wants to be. If you want to write one single chapter that is the whole book, go ahead. Nothing wrong with that. But remember, you've just got to decide, well, when this set of actions, whatever it is, however big it is, when this set of actions is done, do I want to stay in this current grouping and just add more to the group? Or do I want to jump to the next chapter and make a new group because there's a new set of actions? That's the decision. A chapter ends when you, the writer, are satisfied with the conclusion of the activities that just went on. And whether you artificially enforce that or naturally allow it to end depends on what you're doing. The reader is going to keep reading. Do not assume that you can really make the wrong choice and chase the reader away. You can make the wrong choice. You can artificially structure something thinking it's a cliffhanger and the reader keeps reading, but they're not going to feel the tension you want them to feel. Likewise, it should be a cliffhanger and you make it natural so we don't build as much tension as we could. You can mess that up, but the reader is still going to keep reading. They're not, and this is going to come up in a question shortly, they're not looking for a reason to bail. Give yourself and them some credit. End a chapter when you are happy with the conclusion of the activities. If we're talking first chapter, by the way, you haven't built enough tension, you probably are going to start looking for more natural structures early on, and then as your story develops, start introducing artificial structures. Only because it's just beginning. It's sort of like how your first chapter isn't entirely truly a flashback if there's nothing to flashback to, it's just a first chapter. I mean, it can still technically be a flashback, but we need more information to truly understand from what or to what we are flashing back. So it's a contextual thing. Choose. It's up to you. And those are the questions from WhatsApp. I have no great sound to indicate a stinger on the way out. So let's just jump to... Nope, those are questions from chat. Sorry, that's the wrong button. That's the right button, John. I should label these things better. Let's just go start with question number 1. How do I write effective time skips or jumps forward in time without losing the audience or doing too much telling, not showing? All right, hold up. Hang on. Hold the phone. The minute you jump time, any amount of time, but the minute you jump time, you are telling. Because you are immediately telling the reader, hey, I'm skipping forward however long you're skipping. And that's fine. Really, it's okay. Whether you're jumping ahead 10 minutes, an hour, a day, 2 years, 3 years, 1,000 years, millennia, post the cold death of the universe, doesn't matter to me, whatever. The minute you jump time, you are telling, not showing. Why? Because the thing you would be showing, the passage of time, you just skipped. But that's not the end of the world. An effective jump in time, whether forward or backwards, though most of the time when we talk about jumping time, we're jumping forward. But an effective jump in time helps take the old information, the strand of story we are jumping from, and helps recontextualize the strand of story we are jumping to. It's basically like saying, hey, this one set of stuff is done. Package it up, park it in your brain. It's done now. Now we're going to go do new stuff. Now, when you jump forward, you possibly, depending on what it is you're jumping and how big you're jumping and all this stuff, you're possibly going to have to do a little bit of explaining, a little bit of telling and showing to illustrate not just like, hey, time passed because there was on a page, it said at the top 3 years later, but you're going to want to indicate through more than just a really simple phrase or a really simple label that time is moved forward. In cartoon terms, there's always somebody who gets like who grows a goatee or gets an eye patch, or there's some very visible marker of our grizzled cartoon heroes being older. They go gray or something, right? That's a pretty obvious way to go. That's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to serve a function. When you jump time, the reader's going to ask, why are we jumping time? What are we trying to say? The effectiveness of the jump is dependent on your ability to say, hey, we needed to jump time because I wanted to talk about this new thing, because I wanted you to understand this new thing. And then you bring it up and develop the new thing and move the story forward. The audience is not looking for a reason to bail. They are looking for a reason to stay. And if you keep giving them consistent, solid information that they can attach to previous information they already got, and it all makes sense and it seems consistent and it doesn't feel like all of a sudden we've made a hard left turn towards Albuquerque, then everything's okay. And that makes it an effective time skip. Try not to do more than one per book, unless you've got like time travel as an in-story thing. Because if you keep jumping time, it's going to kind of make it seem like you're patching holes. Now, there are some stories where you're intentionally jumping time, like you're trying to illustrate a whole span of something like a leadership position, or it's just somebody aging. So you're going to want to skip time a couple spots. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you have, let's say, one very distinct plot, then you jump time and pick up a completely second plot, and then you jump time into a completely third plot. It can feel a little off because the plots don't line up. That's more the issue when the time skip becomes ineffective. If you're maintaining the same plot and we're following the same characters, and you're able to justify as to why we're skipping forward, it's going to work just fine. Great first question. On to question 2. John, what is Pulp Fiction? Not the movie. The question specifically called out, hey, don't talk about the movie. Fine. What is Pulp Fiction? Is it still a thing? Is it anything like flash fiction? Is there a market for it? Okay, Pulp Fiction is an old thing from way back in the day when books, stories, science fiction, detective fiction, murder mysteries, etc. were printed on cheap paper called pulp paper, and that led to Pulp Fiction. It refers to not only the physical material on which something was printed, but also the genre of story that tended to be printed on that sort of paper. And these were things like the early detective stories, so early hard-boiled fiction, early detective stories, the early science fiction stuff, like the real misogynistic, sexist, ableist stuff. The early sort of like what would casually be referred to as trashy impulse buy books, the stuff, like the bodice rippers and the stuff with the, euphemistic romantic language about, throbbing flesh members and quivering bits of this and that. All that stuff that would normally be seen as very, for its time, vulgar, used to get lumped as Pulp Fiction. Is it still a thing? Yes. It's lost some of its salaciousness. It's now more, not a novelty, but it's certainly a time capsule. It's certainly aimed at an era of fiction generally between maybe 1899 and let's say 1949. So it's that, not only those era of stories, but it's also that sort of vibe and atmosphere culturally. You're going to get a lot of ableism, a lot of homophobia, a lot of sexism, a lot of supremacy, patriarchy, all that stuff. And you're going to get some very definite, lean in on the tropes in Pulp Fiction. Now, sometimes that's fine, and you do a little bit and it goes a long way, and it's popular and great and good. And it is still a thing. You can go out and find it. Is it anything like flash fiction? In the sense that they're both fiction? Yeah, totally. But flash fiction is stuff limited to a word count. Usually, I think it's under 275? 250? It's tiny. Pulp Fiction is normal novel to novella, novella to novel length, anything from 48,000 words all the way up to about 90,000 words. So it's not entirely like flash fiction, except that it's fiction, and it's mostly it's a throwback genre. It's everything from the two-fisted, radio serial Flash Gordon Republic serial style, all the way up through Doc Savage, all the way into the Black Mask and the Green Hornet and Dashiell Hammett and Sam Spade, into L. Ron Hubbard science fiction, all the way through even into like early comic book stuff to some degree, particularly the Americana stuff, not so much the European stuff. It's still around. But it's nowhere near like the strange mix of white supremacist machismo that it used to be. Good question, though. Question 3. Okay, we're going to get a little technical here for a second. Just strap in. It's going to be fine. In young adult science fiction fantasy, should the stakes be reduced or just the impact from harm? There are 2 terms here we need to talk about. Stakes, that's 1, and impact from harm is 2. The stakes of a story are the potential risks and rewards. How dangerous is it? How great could the victory be? How bad could the loss be? What are the odds? Unlike Han Solo, we want to be told the odds here. Young adult science fiction fantasy, this is a real current debate that's going on. Because there are some writers and some alleged experts who will tell you that since it's young adult, you want to make sure the stakes are reduced. Because they're not going to deal with big, giant global catastrophes. They're not going to deal with, big, giant, super huge problems because they're kids. So they need to have kid-sized problems. And yes, sometimes that's true. Sometimes that really helps it be accessible. But sometimes you're a bunch of kids fighting a clown in the sewers. Or sometimes you're a bunch of kids discovering that your teacher's a werewolf. Or sometimes you're a bunch of kids realizing that all the adults have been replaced by pod people. Or sometimes you're young kids who find out you're the normal present-day descendants of the Knights of the Round Table. And the stakes are huge. Sometimes you're just a bunch of British kids who get written by a transphobe, and then you have to go fight a noseless Shakespearean actor. And people die in the later books because you're trying to keep your audience enjoyed or engaged. So, yeah, sometimes the stakes don't get reduced. But the other element is called impact from harm. This is a bit more contentious because impact from harm is the idea that no matter the stakes, you don't hurt the kids. You don't seriously cause permanent injury to your child protagonists. Yeah, you knock them to the ground. You put a little dirt on their face. You skin a knee. But you don't, have the evil villain burn out one of their eyes with a laser torch. Or you don't, lop the leg off your, strong character just because they're supposed to be the strong character. You don't cause incredible, tremendous injury. You don't, attempt to gut them like a fish. You keep your impact, you keep your harm level low so that at most your harm is, maybe the shocking slap across the face or the dirt and smoke in your eyes, as opposed to you've got 3 cracked ribs, Billy. This debate is going on right now. This debate is current. Where do I sit in it? I don't think you should do either. I think if you want to have big giant stakes because your teenage characters are the only ones, or your young adult characters are the only ones who seem to be able to do something about saving the galaxy from, super invading otters from space, then yeah, you can't reduce those stakes. And because the stakes are so big, it's very possible that the strange, spooky, clown aliens are totally going to come and tear your arms off. And there's an actual threat, and there's no need to reduce harm just because, oh my God, you're writing kids. It's sort of like when you read a history book, like a textbook, and you skip the parts with all the blood and violence. That's a thing people do, by the way. Oh, I don't want to read that part about this war or this thing. That's just too violent. Well, it's a history textbook. It's violent. Blame white dudes. But I don't think you need to do either reduce the stakes or, nerf all the sharp corners in your story just because you're writing young adult science fiction. I think young adult science fiction will do just fine with a few sharp corners, a little bit of danger and a little bit of risk. I think the readers want that. I think the general climate of the genre can sustain that. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I don't think it needs to be like bubble wrapped. But that's just me. If you wish to do those things, hey, and you can pull it off, go for it. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever you want. With that said, now, chat, Zoom, YouTube in the future, questions? Oh, good tea. That's damn fine tea. Nothing? Questions? No? It's okay. We still got plenty more questions to cover and talk about. Just want to make sure everybody's good. No questions? All right. If you have one, fire away in chat. I'm more than happy to answer it anytime. On we go then. Now, hang on. There. Nope. Stop it. There we go. Question 4. I'm still working out the buttons, you guys. Question 4. Oh my God, John's going to talk about the stuff. Bring the spice back. Bring the spice back. Why are advanced schedules laid out the way they are? Okay. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. You ready to pull back the curtain and talk about some publishing stuff? You ready? You ready? Here we go. Publishers don't want to give away money because the wealthy don't like sharing the wealth. That is exactly why advanced schedules are laid out the way they are. Why is it so hard for artists to make money? Why is it so hard for artists to get money? Because the people who have money don't want to give it to them. They don't like spending money. They don't like writing these payouts because it directly impacts the amount of money that goes to their pocket. I don't know if you've ever met people who have an expectation or a need for a lot of money to constantly be in their pockets, but they are frequently insufferable and they are miserable lunch companions. And advanced schedules are one sort of way you can, spot this, because they will make it as hard as possible to get the writer a fair amount of money. An advanced schedule is not all one lump sum. It is often divided into pieces, a little bit up front, then a little bit upon delivery of manuscript, a little bit upon, recognizing the manuscript is complete, and then the remainder, however much it is, usually on the day of publication. And then from there, you're trying to earn out of that advance and in order to qualify for royalties. So you are constantly hunting for money. And it's not uncommon for, the advance to be 3 and 4 digits on a check, but it might be 6, 8, 9, 12 weeks before you see that next check. What are you going to do? How are you going to make it work? Because if it's a 4-digit check, maybe that's your mortgage payment, but then you got to go 8 weeks, 2 months before we see another. You should know this going in. This is the sort of thing that should be spelled out in the contract, so that when you get the contract and you read it, you should be able to grab your calendar and then start counting your weeks or months or days, however they've laid it out, and figure out how you're going to move things around and do what you need to do. But these schedules are laid out not for the writer's benefit. They're laid out for the publisher's benefit. It's the downside. It's the unspoken, I only talk about this in conspiratorial whispers, part of traditional publishing. But that's why advanced schedules are laid out the way they are. People don't want to pay. They want to profit. They want to get your book from you and then sell it so that they make money. And then, I guess we got to, give you some. I guess if you really need it. I mean, God, you're so goddamn needy, author. You just gave us this thing. I guess you need to live. That's part of the problem. That's the whole problem in a nutshell. Advanced payouts suck. And if you really want to get a publisher complaining, go ask about royalties. Oh boy, howdy. You will get some very cranky capitalists. The fix for this, by the way, is just flat basic income. Just mandated specific payouts constantly, consistently. But that's a discussion for a different day, comrades. On we go to the next question. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we got all the buttons firing. Question 5. In an ensemble fantasy, do I need to represent a whole party, like fighters, wizards, rogues, etc.? Okay. No-ish. You can if you want. It's okay if you do. But you don't have to. There is no rule that says you must have one fighter, one wizard, one healer, one rogue. You don't need that. There is, you don't need equal representation across your roles. You don't need one particular kind of party balance in order to raid the dungeon successfully. You can have your party of whatever size. Please try to keep your party size small. But you can have your party of whatever size composed of whatever it is you're composed of, so long as the dynamics for the characters allow readers to relate. Or to put that in perhaps easier to understand language, your reader has to be able to relate to one or more characters for one or more different reasons. So you can have a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, a cleric, a bard, and a whatever, so long as a reader can find different reasons to say, yeah, I dig that guy. Yes, that lady's really awesome. Yes, that person is super cool. I understand that when we think about in ensemble fantasy, we tend to see representations that are very laid out according to very typical, usually Western European, concepts of fantasy. We have a trustworthy, noble fighter. We have a slightly duplicitous fighter who's going to double cross the team. We have a rogue with a heart of gold. We have a wizard who's sagely and wise. We have a cleric who's maybe a little bit pacifistic. We have a bard who's probably something of a himbo. But you're not bound and obligated to have those things. You don't have to give your character with the stubble the troubled backstory and the secret heart of gold. You can give your cleric the heart of gold. You can do whatever you want. You can assemble whatever party you want to assemble. Whatever tells your story the best. But you are under no genre requirement to have a certain number of certain kinds of characters. Great question. Oh God, it's gentle advice. And is this a spicy, gentle advice question? This might be a spicy, gentle advice question. Gentle advice. Why can't I stick to my writing resolutions? Here is exactly why you cannot stick to your writing resolutions. 1, you've made your resolution too big. I'm going to write 1 million words in 6 months. Big. Unrealistic. Relative to the amount of other stuff you have going on, or your ability at the time, or any number of other external factors. You've decided to do that thing where your resolution is like this giant obstacle you have to clear, as opposed to just a commitment you make to yourself. So, possible reason number 1, your resolution is too damn big. Suggestion number 2 as to why you can't stick to it. You're not interested in a resolution. You used your resolution for social credit. You wanted to be seen making that resolution. You wanted to get kudos and props from other people. Oh, that's really good. Good for you. Yeah, you can do it. You wanted the head pat. You don't give a shit about, actually sticking to it, because it wasn't about sticking to it. It was about getting praise from other people. So you could, I'm going to go to Jupiter. Doesn't matter. You wanted that attention from other people, and you couldn't find another way to ask for it. Third thing. You've made a reasonable resolution, but you have no craft underneath it, no schedule, no practice, no discipline underneath it to really accomplish it. You can set a writing resolution. You can make all the resolutions you want in the world. You're great at resolutions. But when it comes time to do the thing about which you have just resolved, you find reasons not to. I made a resolution. I was going to write every day, but, then I sit down and I realize, oh God, I should just do my email first. I should just check this first. And you find more and more elaborate, more and more complicated, more and more frequent reasons under your control. I'm not talking about stuff like other people come dump stuff on you. I mean, you're choosing to constantly keep pushing away the thing you're trying to get done. The discipline, the very critical discipline that drives a writing career, is lacking or absent here. So your resolution becomes this pie-in-the-sky idea that you could not possibly accomplish. What's that, 3 reasons? 4th reason you're not sticking to resolutions. There's no consequence. You've made an ineffective resolution. So what if you don't do it? And I'm not saying you need to get into some kind of great castigation. You don't need to flay your flesh or something, or deeply punish yourself psychologically for not following through. But at the same time, you just can't brush it off. If it's important to you, whatever it is, you will make time for it. If it's important for you to hang out around writers but not write, you will find reasons to hang out around writers but not write. If it's important for you to make sure you rest, repair, and recover, you will find reasons to do that. What's important to you is where you put focus. So if you find reasons not to do a thing, write a thing, prep a thing, whatever a thing, there's no consequence for you. If you set a writing resolution and then drop it in the second week of January, what, you're going to feel bad for 2 or 3 days, right? Man, I set that resolution, but whatever, it's fine. I got a whole year. I'll do something else. And then it goes away like it's no big thing. If your resolution was more reasonable, if you were able to task and challenge your discipline, if you were able to see the progress you could make as opposed to the very far distant nebulous reward, if you were able to see that you were actually able to do a thing and do it consistently, you'd stick to your resolution. Whether that's writing, whether that's not writing, whether that's creating, whether that's whatever. The things that are going to help you stick to your resolution are discipline and the ability to indicate progress so that it feels concrete. When those things are absent, that's why you don't stick to a resolution. So that's why you're not sticking to your writing resolution. What a fantastic, gentle question. And now we ask again. Chat, Zoom, YouTube in the future. How's everybody doing? We're good? The audio sound okay? Everybody all right? I see new people. I'm looking here at my list. Hello, new people. If you're new, hi. How are you? I hope you're well. If you're digging this, if you're enjoying this, if you're not completely freaked out and overwhelmed, do please consider, hanging out. I'd love to have you. It was a spicy, gentle question. Yeah. I hate to tell you this, the other gentle question is probably even spicier. It was just that sort of week, I guess. Or maybe I'm just in that sort of mood now, but I guarantee you sometimes they actually are legitimately just very gentle and kind. But I hope you're doing well out there. I hope you're enjoying this. If everything's good, just, holler, let me know, because otherwise it's like I'm talking to the cat, and I do that enough today. Questions? Somebody asked me a question last week, and I promised them a follow-up, and I can't remember who they were or what their question was, but I'm sure if you said, hey, I asked a question about this last week, I would remember. Anybody? Anything? Everybody hydrated? We're doing okay? We're warm if we're cold, if it's cold outside, and we're cool if it's hot outside? We're doing good? Yeah? Okay. But I'm going to keep going. No, stop it. Fingers? Jesus. We did 6, and now we're on to 7. John, if my query letter is regularly getting rejected, how do I start fixing it? Oh. Well, first of all, good for you. Good for you for immediately realizing that if your query letter is getting rejected, you fix the query letter. You don't immediately assume that the manuscript is the fault. Because remember, if your query letter isn't working, they're not going to read the manuscript. Because they're just going to assume that the manuscript is in as poor a shape as the query letter is and call it a day. So, if your query letter is getting rejected, where do you start fixing it? Right at the beginning of the query. Where are you starting this query? Literally, what are the first things you put on that page? Are you taking a couple sentences? Because remember, we only have about 250 words. Counting all the labels and identifiers and all the doodads, 250 words. So if you're starting off your query letter with some paragraph about, hi, I'm writing because I'd like representation, and my book has the following themes, and it's very similar to blah, 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 blah. You think that's what somebody who's trying to figure out whether or not they're going to give you money and make your book a book, you think that's where somebody wants to start? You think that's where movie trailers start? You think that's where conversations start when you're trying to get to know somebody? If you were looking to build a relationship with someone, if you were looking to make a movie sound appealing to other people, if you were looking to engage in some kind of conversation, which would you prefer? Would you prefer to have somebody come up and go, hi, hello, it's really nice to see you. I'm a biped. I'm a mammal. I'm similar to other mammals in that I have digits and opposable thumbs, but I'm different from other mammals because I am not, a chicken. No, that's a fowl. But you get what I'm saying? Or do you want somebody to come in and go, hi, I'm John. It's really nice to meet you. How was your day today? Start at the beginning of your query. Look at what you're saying up front, what grabs the reader's attention. You start with the plot. You start with the character. You start with something that's going to grab them and hold their focus. An impactful sentence, an impactful paragraph. And then you lead to another impactful sentence and another impactful paragraph. And then at the end, the bottom, the last third, more or less, of the query, that's where you come in and go, here's the title of my book. Here's the word count. Here are the themes. If you're the sort of person who wants to do comps, this is where your comps go. But you do that after you warm everything else up. You don't want to... All right, we're going to use this example. Maybe this will make sense. Think of any movie trailer, okay? Any movie trailer. You know that title card where it talks about like the rating of the movie and who directed it and like the writer and the editor and all that stuff, and kind of compress it in that tiny ass little font? Do you want that at the beginning or the end of your trailer? That's exactly where the business paragraph goes. It's the technical stuff. You want to start your trailer with that? Or do you want that at the end, the big thing, so that you walk away and going, oh yeah, that's a Spike Lee joint. Hell yeah, let's go. and you spent the time in the trailer, the 90 seconds, the 230, the 222, the 106, whatever. You spent your time in the trailer figuring out what that specific story was so that you can go check it out later. Start fixing your query at the top. And I guarantee you, the best thing you can do if you want to get better at queries is every time it's time to fix your query, start from scratch. You will get frustrated. You will tell me I'm being dumb. You will write me a mean email. You will send me a mean tweet. You will make a face when you think about it. But I guarantee you, if every time you have to write a query, you sit down with a blank page, you will get better at writing queries. But start fixing it at the top. Fix it when you grab the attention to begin with. Open strong and maintain. It's going to go a long way for you. Great question. Question 8. Oh, we're getting technical again. Oh, man, I'm going to get another mouthful of tea. Oof, okay. How are we doing on time? And we're doing okay on time. That's good, because this one's going to take a minute. John, how do I write, prepare, foreshadow, and execute a betrayal? Please hold my hand through all the steps. And yes, you are allowed to yell. This is because I think it was last week I had talked about how sometimes I enjoy the challenge of like giving a passionate answer without cursing or anything. So this is the other side of the coin. This is where it's like, hey, you can yell if you want to. I'm going to try and not yell. Like there's no reason to yell right now for this. So, yeah. I'm assuming, and I'm going to take the example for this question as a betrayal of one character to another. Whether that's a sidekick betraying a main character or one main character betraying another main character, whatever. We are going to identify them as A and B just so I can keep them straight. And A is going to betray B just so we can keep them straight. Okay? To break down a betrayal, whatever the betrayal is, we're going to need to lay out a few things well in advance of the sitting and the drafting. So we're in organization mode here, okay? We're starting with this. You need a few things. Item number 1, you need a reason to betray. So A needs a reason to betray B. Why is A betraying B? That's going to be the first question. Second question. When they betray the other person, when A betrays B, what is A expecting, that's critical, expecting as a reward or a result? This is, again, going to reinforce part of the why. If A has to turn on B, the expectation is if I turn on B, I'm going to get something. The cool kids will accept me if I shove the other nerd into the locker. There has to be a tangible, practical, desirable reward for the betraying character, the character doing the betrayal. If there's no reward, then no matter how you write it, the betrayal is not going to feel like it matters. And when I say reward, I don't mean like it has to be like a thing. You're going to get a box of candy. It just needs to be a reason for the character to do it. I'm betraying you because I'm cold and I want to go home. I'm betraying you because I'm tired of being like this. There just needs to be some kind of reason to motivate the betrayal. Next question, third thing. Does the character doing the betrayal actually get that thing? So you see this in usually in action films, right? Where some character turns on the main character thinking that they've just, they've spared their own life because, they've turned the good guy over to the bad guys. Indiana Jones's best friend of the movie suddenly finds out that he's been in cahoots with the bad guy this whole time because he thinks the bad guy's going to help him get rich. That's the expectation. But then the reality shows up. And knowing what that reality is has a pretty important impact on the betrayal. One, if A betrays B, expecting a reward and then doesn't get it, you have to figure out what to do with A. So if I turn Indiana Jones over to the Nazis, then I'm expecting the Nazis to like spare my life and or give me gold or something, right? But if they end up shooting me, then I don't get what I want and I die, and my betrayal hurts. At least it hurts Indiana Jones because the story moves on, and it hurts me because I'm dead. But if, the cool kids at the lunchroom tell me to go, shove my nerd friend in the locker, and then I'll sit at their table, and I shove the nerd in the locker, and then they turn around and go, yeah, you're still not one of the cool kids. What am I supposed to do? What, go back to the kid in the locker, hey, I'm really sorry I betrayed you? Maybe. Yeah, that could be a thing. We could get an interesting story out of that. But we still need to know what's going to happen if the betrayal works. Side note, it is possible to write a betrayal where the betrayal fails, where I'm trying to betray the other person and it just doesn't go through for whatever reason. We don't really write that so much anymore. It used to be really popular like 100 and something years ago. Actually, no, let me do the math in my head. 200 something years ago? I forgot what century this was, sorry. But by and large, when we have a betrayal, it's because we're intending for it to work. Because otherwise we wouldn't put it in there. So that's how we prepare it. We prepare it knowing why we're going to do it, what the character is expecting to get out of it, whether or not they actually get that, and then what happens after this happens. What happens post-betrayal? Character survives, character disappears, other character moves the story forward, whatever. You have to know those things because that when we get down to the writing part and we foreshadow and execute, these factors come into play. So the trick here, the wrinkle, the hard part is in the foreshadowing. Because the question's going to be, well, how much foreshadowing do I have to do? Like, is it a lot? Do I have to like, I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to like have this big blinking neon sign like this guy's going to betray you, this guy's going to betray you, this guy's going to betray you. You don't want to make it super obvious. But at the same time, you don't want to have it come completely out of left field. It's worth pointing out that the extremes of the spectrum here always seem to get talked about. Either that it's a giant blinking arrow because you've overdone it, or you've never talked about it at all. We're skipping that really juicy middle section where there's an actual okay amount of it. Now, if you're wondering, John, is there a magic number? Is there a particular number of times I should mention a thing? No. It's going to be more than 2. Usually it's more than 3. But there's a minimum number of times. Usually it's 2 or 3 because one of those 2 or 3 is the betrayal. And then 1 or 2 of the other, if we do 2, let's say, one of those is the betrayal and one of those is the moment that sort of foreshadows it. So we have foreshadow and betrayal, 2 things. Usually it's 3 things. Indicate it's possible. Foreshadow it, do it. 3 things. Usually it's more than 3. How many more? I don't know. It's up to you. You write it. I can tell you, though, that it's usually more than 3 and less than 9. Because otherwise you're taking too long to get to your point. But more important than the quantity of foreshadowing is how you foreshadow it. Because it depends on what the betrayal is. When in the story does the betrayal happen? Is it a particular set of events? Like, we finally reach this moment and then the betrayal happens? I'm gonna reject you on this one particular night at this one particular time. Having an idea of when the betrayal will happen in the story picturing that scene in your head. Knowing what that scene is, how it feels, what's supposed to happen in it, where it is, when it is. It's the big night. It's the big night of the dance. You can then take apart that idea in your head. Well, everybody's going to be dressed up. Everybody's going to be gathered. Everybody's going to be all assembled and all, urgently expecting everything to go right. You can take apart those elements and reference them earlier on as part of your foreshadowing. So, for instance, if you are going to betray this person in a large group, A is going to turn on B, at the dance when everybody's sort of assembled at the doors, right before everybody goes in to dance. So we're all in a big cluster. You can foreshadow A turning on B because one of the times prior to the betrayal, when everybody's in a group, A has some kind of negative or bad interaction with B, showing that it's possible that, maybe A and B in a group together something might happen. And then you counterbalance that because you put A and B in a group where something doesn't happen. So you're not doing that blinking neon sign where every group equals bad. That way the reader has to keep reading in order to see if this time this group is the bad one. Your foreshadowing is about creating the possibility. Could this be the moment where something goes bad? Keep reading to find out. And we balance that with times where it doesn't, so that we create this tension. We sustain this tension. We draw it out. I'm making a pulling apart motion with my hands. We draw out this tension so that it lasts. So that finally, when we get our payoff, in this case, our betrayal, we've been waiting for it and building up to it, and it's building up in our heads, and we get there, and it's, oh my God, wow, we finally got it. Work from the execution of the betrayal. Here's how it goes down. And then reverse engineer. Okay, how did we get there? I know I want to have A betray B at the dance, so I got to get everybody to the dance. What do I need that? I got to make sure they have a reason for betrayal, so I got to set that up. Maybe A and B are fighting over the person they're going to go to the dance with. Okay, so I need to set up this dynamic relationship. I need to build it across a couple different scenes. And you're working backwards from when you know it's going to happen because it's clearest in your head. It's okay to write backwards. It's okay to write out of order. You don't have to write all your scenes in order. It's okay to write the scene where the betrayal happens, and then that way you know where you have to get to, and then you just work either forward or backwards and patch your holes and connect your dots. But the foreshadowing part matters, because the more effective your foreshadowing, even without choosing extra spicy words, the execution's going to hurt more. It's going to have that bigger impact because you will have successfully built up to it. But the actual writing of it, because that was part of the question, that just comes down to crafting the scene, following your point of view character, playing things out. If the betrayal is happening to your point of view character, don't forget that you can go in their head and work through their feelings and sit the reader in that space of, oh my God, what the hell just happened? And if your character, if your point of view character is doing the betraying, you can focus on the reward. You can focus on the maybe the feelings if you want, but you can focus differently. So instead of, oh my God, what the hell is happening? It's, this has to happen. I got to kick this person to the curb. But it comes down to that foreshadowing. So it might be in your interest to write the execution first, write that betrayal first, and then work backwards so that you can find moments to foreshadow it in. Because, okay, so if we're going to do it in a big group and there's going to be, like a punch bowl and everybody's gathered around it and they're jeering, so we're going to take individual those moments. Maybe one time in the scene there's a punch bowl. Maybe over here we're jeering. Maybe over here we're, going we're decorating or something, and it becomes a thing. So little pieces in little scenes in order, a little bit from 1, a little bit from 2, a little bit from 26, a little bit from 31. This plus this plus this plus this hello, hi, thanks for coming in. This plus this plus this plus this absolutely come together to build your betrayal. Remember, if we're going to betray in, I'm going to make numbers up, scene 30, we did not want to start our betrayal in scene 27, then 28, then 29. We wanted to space this out because our reader has been reading for a while. And we want to reward their reading. So maybe we started our foreshadowing back in 6. We did 6 and 7, then we skipped like a number, and then we did it again in 17, then we skipped a few more numbers, we did it in 21, then 22, then we did it in 25, and now here we are in 30 and we're paying it off. Again, I just made those numbers up. Don't feel like it has to happen at those specific spots or in those intervals. I'm just trying to illustrate that we started the foreshadowing far earlier than the critical moment where it happened. Make sense? And I did that, by the way, without yelling. I'm giving myself air horns. Because damn it, I deserve air horns. Also, we are flying tonight, which is fine. I don't mind. All right. Shall we move on? So that's 8. And now we're up to 9. We're back to the spice. Man, there's so much spice in here. You think we're talking Dune. I worked hard on that joke, goddammit. Somewhere I hope somebody's listening to that and like chuckles at the very least. I've waited all day for that joke. Question 9. Why do you think writers all reach a point where they hate their manuscripts? Well, every writer I've ever known, every writer I've ever worked with, has at some point, with one or more of their books, reached a point where they're just sick of it, where they hate it, where they think it's going to take forever to get to whatever the next step is, or it's just taking too long, or it sucks, or everything they do sucks, and it's all bad, and it double sucks. Every writer gets there, because the work isn't the issue. Because the words suddenly didn't change from a week ago if you didn't write new words. It's always been, the thing that's being changed has always been your perspective, your feelings. Some people reach that point where they hate their work because they have this want and expectation that things, events in their process are supposed to be happening faster. They get impatient. So they hate this, how this is going, this writing process, this publishing process, because they want the end result. They had an expectation it's supposed to be happening at a certain rate, a certain speed, at a certain time, and it's not. And since they can't really affect any control about it, because they can't suddenly make somebody say yes to their query letter, or they can't suddenly invent 100 new people to buy 100 of their books, they start to hate their work, because what else are they going to lash out at? They got to take their frustration out somewhere. They got to vent it. They need an outlet. It's the manuscript's fault. Damn it, why is this so hard? I'm trying my best. Why does this keep sucking? It doesn't suck. You're just impatient. You're just a little frustrated that it's not happening faster. The better question in that case would be, why are you being impatient? Would you like some more support? Would you like somebody to come along and go, you're doing a great job. Recognize that for a second. I understand that you want the end result. I understand that you want the reward. Absolutely. Everybody wants the reward. But you weren't impatient 3 days ago. What happened? What changed? Did you encounter somebody who, got their success and you're feeling like, well, if they got theirs now, when am I going to get mine? Because you think success somehow became finite? Like there was only enough seats for musical chairs and you didn't get one and now you're sunk? Because that's not true at all. Have you seen the number of idiots out there making art? There's loads of room for like awful people and good people alike to have as much success as they're welcome to. There's always room at the table for somebody to pull up a chair. So why are you getting impatient? If it's more of a pressure thing, maybe it's this idea that you think you're supposed to be doing it a certain way. You're supposed to be producing at a certain level. You're supposed to be, at this certain point because you've been working for so long. You've been in this, I'm going to make numbers up, X number of years, 6 years. You're supposed to be, at a 6-year mark. Who said? Who said? I'm in my 40s. By all accounts, I should, be in a, let's see, let's look at my upbringing and background. I'm supposed to be in a stable, monogamous, socially upward, probably corporate existence, right? Probably have multiple children, multiple cars, financially stable to some degree, right? That's where I'm supposed to be at 40 as a white dude. I'm not at all. And when I pressure myself that I should be, I get very uncomfortable. I get real aggressive and I lash out at things. So, are you pressuring yourself? Why? If it comes down to, I know I need to be working harder and I'm not, or I know I should be working harder and I don't know how, then my recommendation to you is that you go speak to somebody. Go talk to a pro, go talk to a writing coach, go talk to an editor, go talk to a freelancer, go talk to a therapist, go talk to some other human who can provide some kind of counsel to help alleviate some of the pressure you've put on yourself for some reason and help give you a toolbox to either manage your stuff or, in a more creative atmosphere, help you get where you want to go. It's not that you're not deserving of it. It's not that at all. You're always deserving of it. But this idea that it has to happen at a certain rate or it should have happened by now and you're you and it's supposed to have happened for you by XYZ point, maybe that's more of a problem in the manuscript. Like it's just chapter 8, man. It's cool. Now that said, covering all that, maybe the writing in this one sucks. Maybe you wrote a dud chapter. It's not great. You could do a better job. Not just, I really think this, I could have written better dialogue. Like, that sentence isn't great. I mean, like, you are flat out just sandbagging it. The writing is not good. Start over. Start a new page. Start a new chapter. Start from the beginning. Do whatever you want to do. You're in charge of this. You don't always and only have to jump to that conclusion. Oh my God. This one sentence is bad, therefore I must begin at page 1 all over again. As somebody who has done that for a number of projects, it's exhausting. Please don't follow that one. Please don't take after me in that way. Do better than me. But that came down to pressure and expectation and impatience, a medley of all the things we've talked about so far. And if you really want to dig and you really want to poke me with a stick, hey John, why do I think every writer gets to this? It's because social media exists. Because social media, for his social, I'm making big air quotes, hernia-inducing, crane air quotes, social media, they prize competition. They prize evaluation, hierarchy, and ranking, whether that's algorithmically or just conversationally. Who's doing better than somebody else? How do we judge them? How do we organize and sort them? And all of a sudden you start seeing other people do better. And you compare their totally done thing that you don't know how hard they worked, you don't know how long they've been trying, you don't know how many times they tried and failed and got back up again. You're comparing their unknown amount of journey to the amount of journey you're on. You've got an unknown compared to a known. And you're immediately assuming your known is inadequate. You have no evidence for this. You're just assuming that it is because they've got success and you don't. You don't know if, they started a dozen years before you. You don't know what it cost them to get there. You don't know if it blew up their marriage or it cost them their job, or you don't know if they, didn't sleep for 6 months. You don't know. Social media won't encourage you to be honest about it either, so you're just going to have to assume they, the fucking story fairy showed up and they just magically got what they wanted. But everybody gets to that point where they're just fed up with their work because somewhere there's impatience or comparison or fear or some lack of validation or praise or comfort, and they take it out on the work. So I'm telling you right now, where you are, who you are, writing whatever you're writing, making whatever you're making, I am really proud of you. I understand that it's imperfect. I understand that it's not done yet. I understand that you probably could do better if you had 10 more years and all the free time and no other stressors. I get it. That's true for everybody. I'm just telling you flat out right now, I'm proud of the progress you are making. I'm proud of how far you have come, and I want to see you keep going. I don't care if you're not my client. I don't care if you're brand new and hearing this for the first time. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you are not alone in your journey creatively. And you can always look to your left or right, and I will be right there, more than happy to help you get wherever it is you want to go. You only ever need to ask. Okay? We cool? Let's go see if chat has questions, shall we? Zoom. You got very quiet over there, Zoom. I hope you're okay. Twitch? You good? YouTube from the future? You all right? Hi, YouTube. Shout out to the bots that leave cool comments. I do want to take a minute and point out that I don't know if this is true for everybody, but absolutely, man. It's my pleasure to answer that question. I just want to point out that I seem to consistently get the same bots posting the same sex links in the comments for my YouTube posts. I understand you're automated. I get it. I really do. I just want, if there are people behind that automation, I just want you to know, thank you so much for leaving comments. I appreciate them because at least it means somebody somewhere algorithmically found my stuff. I'm never planning on clicking anything that allows you to, through the magic of an HTML link, cause my genitals to expand in size. But all the same, thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it, bots. There's a question in chat. I have a question. I'm using your outline method and wanted to check on emotional temperature. Oh, hell yes. Emotional temperature. If you don't know, emotional temperature is the evaluation of a character relative to what's going on around them. How do they feel about what's going on? My protagonist is usually a 7, 8, or 9 in every scene. Am I understanding the purpose of emotional temperature correctly? Mostly. 9 is a little high. So 9 and 10, the top of the scale, are supposed to be like, oh my God, the world's on fire. It's the asteroid coming to kill the dinosaurs. It's the killer trying to break into the room. It's, oh my God, it's the end of all things. 9's a little high. 7 and 8 is probably where you want to level your plot. Like the high, especially the climax, because it's the highest point of story. You're going to get a character who's frequently 7 and 8. Because, oh my God, there's all this stuff going on. My things are happening. Things are good. Things are bad. Whatever. 7 and 8, totally okay. Even some 6s. Because remember, 5 is average. It's the middle of the scale. Things are a big deal, but not super big. 6 and 7, yeah, they're kind of a big deal. I'm feeling some pressure on it. 8, I'm definitely feeling pressure. I'm definitely doing something about it. By the time you cross from 7 upward, you are taking action to alleviate or manage the stress and pressure. 9 and 10, you will drop everything else and deal with the problem. Oh my God, I have to get away from the monster. If I don't pass the test, I'm getting kicked out of school. Whatever. That sort of thing is a 9 or 10. When it's the biggest all-consuming, I was going to say all-consumingest, but I think you understand what I'm saying. The big, giant black hole that's sucking all their attention. 7 and 8, yep, 9's a little high. But it sounds to me, based on how you have described it, it sounds to me like you are spot on there. Why are you climbing on me, cat? What's the matter? Oh, I'm sorry, I moved my leg. How dare I? Okay, it's a good question. Emotional temperature, if you're curious, because you have no idea what he's talking about, emotional temperature is the idea that when an event happens for a character, they're going to have some kind of reaction to it. You're very welcome. Thank you for asking the question. They're going to have some kind of reaction to it. There's two different kinds of reaction. There's perceived emotional temperature, which is how much of a big deal or how urgent or how critical or how bad or how good or how much, whatever it is, how much something is for them. And the actual emotional temperature, which is the reality of the situation. So if we use our example of a young adult character who's got to pass a test in order to graduate high school, right? To the character, passing this test is everything. Oh my God, it's a 9 or a 10. Because life would literally be over if they don't pass this test and graduate with all their friends, yeah? But in the reality of things, their life would still go on. It wouldn't, they wouldn't cease to exist. They would not be destroyed on an atomic level. Their social life might be affected, their personal life might be affected, their ego might take a hit, but the actual emotional temperature of it is far lower. It's probably something to like a 6. It's important, not just for the story, but just, within the social contract of the world of the story, it's expected that the kid will graduate. But the reality is more like a 6 or a 7, and to the kid it's like a 9. So that disparity between the two, to the kid, it's a much bigger deal than it is in the reality of things, because it's a bigger deal to the kid. The kid's going to take more action. Oh my God, it's a much bigger deal. They're going to use their agency to take direct steps to deal with that 9. They're not going to go party with their friends. They're not going to go slack off. They're not going to do the bad things they were doing earlier in the book. Again, I'm making stuff up, but they're going to buckle down. They're going to try and do this because it's important to them that they pass. It's important to them that they graduate. So the disparity between the perceived emotional temperature and the actual emotional temperature is one of the factors that motivates a character to go forward and do stuff. Side note, when a character is motivated in doing that stuff, these are opportunities for the reader to relate to and attach to that character, to give a shit about them, to care, to want them to succeed. Now, I'm framing this positively, but you can easily make this a negative thing. Your junkie who wants to get high, getting high, believe me, I can speak from personal experience, it's always a 10. But the reality of the situation, it's maybe a 7, because there are physical, biological, medical consequences to not getting your drug. But at the same time, like, for the rest of the world, according to the social contract and the rules of the world as the characters live in, it's really minor. Because there's so many other people doing so many other things. But to a character, it's all consuming. So we use that disparity between how they feel about a thing and how a thing really is. We use that disparity to motivate characters forward. What a fantastic question. Thank you for letting me get a little technical. I really appreciate it. All right, shall we move on? Other questions? Everyone in Zoom got very quiet. Hang on, there might be a question from Twitter. Hang on. I'm getting a thing. No. That's fine. All right. Other questions? Twitch? Anybody? New people? Hi. Cool. So it's the disparity that helps the reader, i.e., aside from that, helps is the misleading word there. I mean, it's not a bad word. I get what you're trying to say, but yes, the disparity is to the reader's advantage. Because the perceived temperature you need to do something. Establishing a perceived temperature by itself and not leading it to take action is kind of meaningless. It's sort of like you saying, oh, it's totally a big deal that I do activity, and then you just sit there instead. It's about catalyzing the feeling into action. Oh my God, it's so urgent that I do laundry, but I don't take my stuff to the washing machine. I don't take that action. It's just hot air. It doesn't really matter. You need that disparity, and then you need to mobilize the character through their agency, through their own skills, through their wants, through their needs, through their moral code, if you have to, depending on what it is they're doing, through their development, through their stuff, so that we can get further along their arc, so that we can move further in the plot. This is how it all ties together. If you're listening to this, by the way, just as an aside, if you're listening to this and you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, and you want it like totally laid out for you, totally, for free, because people like free, go, not right this second, but go to writernextdoor.com. On the top part, it says book an appointment. Click that. Scroll down a little bit to free consultation, free 30-minute consultation. Click that. Okay? Book a free 30-minute appointment. I will happily explain this to you in as much detail as you want over the phone. But I just gave you a condensed version now here in chat. Cool. I'm so glad my explanation helped you. It's a great question. It's one of those parts about in development that I just love talking about, sort of the synthesis of character and plot and action and agency and decision and character growth. Love that stuff. Because when you read a story and those things aren't really present, like let's say there's no real clear moral code, or the character has skills and the character seems to be good at every goddamn thing, then you don't really get a sense that their urgency matters. Because if the character is just good at whatever, like, they just do it, then why would they have to hurry? Why would it be a problem? Why would it be a big deal? They're just always going to succeed. If I knew that I was always going to get 100 on a test, if I was always going to be flawless in an activity, no matter what I did, I would really try to spend the majority of my time elsewhere, because these things would then become a nuisance. Not you, Linus. You're not a nuisance. You're just climbing on me. You're fine. But the idea here is that we want to make sure the character is always in some kind of growth state. That they're moving along their arc. They're moving forward in the plot. Sometimes both, sometimes just one, whatever. But they're always doing something for a reason, to get them somewhere, to get towards some goal. Even if that goal is just, I'm trying to survive this scene, or I'm trying to walk from here to there. There's always a goal. And there's always an action to be taken towards that goal. When they're able to think of that action by themselves, that's agency. I'm choosing to go from here to there and walk. When that action is externalized or placed upon them, it isn't agency, but that doesn't, here's the gray area, it doesn't necessarily make it bad. Sometimes characters are forced. Hey, walk the plank, pirate. That kind of thing. But all this stuff matters based on the disparity between perceived emotional temperature and actual emotional temperature to determine how a character acts or reacts. Love that question. Oh, man, that's a great question. Others? All right. On we go. Bring the spice back on the menu. We are, I think, let me look at my list. Oh my God, all the questions from here on out are spicy. Maybe we should stop for a second and get like a glass of milk or some bread or some sort of stomach antacid, because from here on out we get spicy. There's your warning. Prepare for spice. How do I know? You want spice? Oh, you'll get spice, son. You're going to get some spice. How do I know when, when/if, depending on where you are, my book is unpublishable? Okay, here we go. Arguably, no book is unpublishable. It's that some books aren't publishable the way the author may want them to be published. Because, thanks to the power of self-publishing, any book can be published. At least in terms of being transformed from a manuscript in one medium to a finished book in another medium. Don't confuse publishable with found an audience and made the author successful. They're not the same activity. Just like putting a card in an envelope is not the same as mailing the envelope like for Christmas or something. No book is truly unpublishable. You're talking about marketable if you're worried about your audience or your sales or something. A book is unpublishable only under one condition: when it is incomplete, when you are still writing it. Why? Because you're still writing it. The same reason we don't, in traditional publishing, query incomplete manuscripts. Because eventually somebody's going to want to read the whole thing. So it's unpublishable only when you're writing it. Once written, once edited, once polished, once, packaged up all nice, neat, and pretty, it is publishable. But depending on a number of factors, the content, how you wrote it, the intended audience, who the hell you are, your social media presence, the climate at the sales climate at the time, the social climate at the time, the culture at the time, your book topic, your themes, the fucking weather, world shipping issues, paper and cardboard shortages, economics, etc., etc. Due to a number of factors, a book might struggle to find its market or struggle to find its audience. But it'll still be published. In America right now, there is a whole spate of Nazis and fascists who are publishing books about their time in the previous presidential administration. And they are making the writers, or the people who swear they wrote the book even though they hired a ghostwriter or three, the authors of those books are making the rounds on different media shows to talk about, oh my God, I can't believe how Nazi the other Nazis were. I can't believe there were Nazis in the Nazi place. But when you look at their book sales, they're doing, 10, 15 hours of television a week, plus a podcast, plus interviews. It seems like you can't turn around without bumping into this person. But you look at their book sales and they've barely sold like 2,200 copies out of a print run of, say, 30,000 books. For a traditional market, for a large publisher, for a big name person as Nazi as the Nazi might Nazi, that's unacceptable. But that doesn't mean the book's unpublishable. It just means nobody's buying it. And I think that's a really critical distinction. When you, listening out there, are talking about whether or not my book can be published, are you talking about, can I make this Word doc, this Scrivener file, this text file, this whatever file, can I turn it into a book? Or are you talking about, once it is turned into a book, will anybody want it? That's a really critical distinction. Some of you, those who have hitched your horse to the very incredible, must only traditional publish wagon. It's only good, it only counts, it's only right. I demand I be published by a book company named after a small flightless bird and a a not certainly assigned domicile. You get what I'm saying? If more people were in Zoom, they'd totally laugh at that joke. But anyway, I need to be published by this traditional publisher because otherwise I'm not a real, air quotes, real author, or whatever horse shit you've decided to buy into, because that's just wrong and you're hurting yourself when you do that. It's still publishable. Just not marketable. Or you need a better marketing plan. Or you just need to accept that, hey, we're going to throw this out into the world and it's not going to get very far. So the next time we'll try something better and different. That's okay. That happens. But if we're strictly talking unpublishable, you got to finish the thing first. Great question. So spicy. Much spice. And on we go. Oh my God, more spice. So much spice. My mouth is afire. I'm going to drink more tea. John, what do you do when you have clients who just aren't going to make it as authors? All right, I'm going to drink this tea and then I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening right now. Okay, here's what's up. I can name off the top of my head seven of my usual clients who are looking at this question, listening to my voice and going, oh my God, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. He won't name me. He won't out me, but I know he's talking about me. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very, very carefully. If you are currently my client, I am not talking about you. If you had an appointment with me in the last 2 months, like an actual appointment, not just like, hey, you sent me a text message. I mean, like, we corresponded for an hour. I'm not talking about you. I'm speaking generally now about a group of humans because statistically, even among my clients, statistically, the vast number of writers, you're fine. Everybody in chat, hang on. I'm going to guarantee that almost I think just about, yeah, everybody in chat is fine. Stop freaking out. You're fine. Everybody's cool. Everybody in Zoom is cool. The people who were immediately like, oh my God, you're all so cool. You're cool. I don't mean you. I mean the people who will likely listen to this after the fact and then immediately think, oh, he's not talking about me. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Or the people who will listen to this way later, maybe on YouTube or whatever, who are like, oh my God, I can't believe there are people like that. Yep, that's who I mean. The people who just aren't going to make it. High five Zoom buddies. High five all the buddies. What do I do when I have people who just aren't going to make it? I do my best. I do my absolute best to make sure that they are as well equipped to go as far as they can go. I can tell them a million times, hey, you've got a trunk novel here. Hey, your idea of a roadmap here isn't going to work. Absolutely. I do believe that anybody can make it as an author if they're willing to do the work. It's that if part that really significantly becomes a problem. Because a lot of people see the if, they hear me say the if, and they swear up and down, oh, I totally want to do it. But when it's their turn to do the if, nope, they're out. They're out. They'll come up with a billion reasons why, but they're out. That's the issue. And when I encounter those people, and statistically, yes, the majority of people I talk to, what are generally referred to in the business as one and dones, people I talk to once, one time, like people who jump on, like I randomly say, hey, if you got 10 minutes and you want some help, here you go. The people who I talk to once for one thing and swear up and down they're going to come back and never do. Or the ones who I talk to and they swear, oh my God, we're going to work forever, John. We're going to be, I'm in this with you to the end. And then they're not. And I don't just mean like when I, get sick or get busy or life happens and I have to reschedule and things sort of fall by the wayside. I'm not talking about the times where I dropped the ball, because that's on me. And I will own responsibility for my shortcomings and my poor scheduling and the craziness of everything that's happening behind the scenes with other people and other things that are not ever going to come up on this chat unless things take hard turns left and right. But I'm talking about people who swear up and down they're real serious, that they want to be authors, they want to be writers, they have all these big plans. And then they don't. They just go away. Things get hard and they run away. What do I do? First of all, I feel like garbage. I don't think there's enough talk about that. I don't think enough freelance editors and coaches talk about that. I feel crap. I feel it's awful. Not just because, oh man, had that person come back, maybe I'd have enough money for groceries this week. I mean, like, they had a really great idea. I wish they were, able to follow through. I really enjoyed talking to them. I really liked hearing them excited about their idea. I really thought they were onto something. It's too bad that they're gone. That's what I mean. Yes, the lack of groceries is a distinct issue some weeks. But more important to me on a day-to-day basis is the fact that they didn't do it. Even if I didn't give them like a paint-by-numbers roadmap, man, I just wish they'd come back. Some of these people were awesome. Some of their story ideas were amazing. I wish they'd come back. I'd wish you'd have a chance to read some of these things. They were incredible. There were stories about, supernatural legal thrillers in the afterlife. There were stories about, generational dramas. There were time travel, like murder mysteries. There were some phenomenal stories for people I talked to once. And their plans were big, and it really seemed like they had all their ducks in a row. But when push came to shove, they neither wanted a push nor to be shoved. They wanted to step aside because the idea was more appealing than the effort. So what do? I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I can spot these things. I can talk to you and tell you right now, like, oh yeah, you'll make it. You will not make it in your current iteration, with your current level of discipline, your current level of craft, your current intention, your current plan. You will or you will not make it. I got a pretty good radar for these things. And when I encounter somebody who's just not going to make it, I do my best to equip them to get as far as they can. Hopeful that along the way they will turn around and go, oh, I think I need to change this. I think I need to confront my confidence issue. I think I need to push myself a little harder. I think I need to, trust myself a little more. I think I need to change up my outlining style. I think I need to, read this thing you recommended to me or something. They need to commit to something. And then they push forward and they break through their little glass ceiling and they rocket forward to wherever they're going to go. But when they're not going to do that, I just try to equip them as best I can. And yeah, if, you get so far, and I'm rooting for you. God damn it, I'm rooting for everybody. Insert, the Tyra Banks gif here? Totally rooting for you. And yeah, sometimes I get real cranky about it, and I will text my friends about like, oh man, this isn't working. I really wish they'd come back. Because I want them to come back, because I want to read their book. But sometimes people don't. Sometimes they don't. So you just try to equip them as best you can and you hope for the best. To date, right now, in 23, 22 years or whatever, right? There's only 4 clients. 4! Where I have said, don't come back. Fun fact, 3 of them are in gaming. Only 1 author. 3 are in gaming. I said, don't come back. Everybody else, even the most hell baby author ever, has an open door to come back. I might not like it. Hopefully they've improved whatever they're doing. But all the same, come on back. I just want to see you succeed. I just want you to do better. I believe in you. the 4 people, by the way, who had the door slammed shut in their face, all to some degree or another, either very publicly or surreptitiously, and I had to find out about it from other people, just trashed me. And not even like usually trashed me, like, oh, you used to be a drunk. Oh, you're an addict. Like, everybody knows that. That's not exactly, it's not new, you know? I mean, like, they just talk shit about me, whatever. That's not cool. I grew up and got past that stage. Why didn't you? But by and large, my goal remains, as always, to equip an author and get them as far as they can. Not necessarily as fast as they can, but I will give everybody the best training and roadmap I can so that they can go wherever they want to go, as long and as frequently as possible. That's my goal. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate you too. I'm out of tea. I've had 3 pints. I'm switching to water. Oh man, that water is not the same as tea. That tea is banging. That water is just kind of, it's there. All right. Shall we get on to the spicy final question of the evening? Are there other questions in chat? Zoom? I love you too, Zoom. YouTube in the future? Comments? Sex bots? Anybody? I am looking for love. I'm not clicking that link, but you know. Humans? Anybody? Questions? Else we will go get particularly spicy. Oh, this one's good. You're going to like this one. On we go. Gentle advice. Spicy edition. John, I'm afraid of feedback, so I'm always making new projects instead of soliciting feedback for existing ones. I forgot some words in this question. Sorry. So I'm always making new projects so that instead people will be excited because, oh my God, I have a new project. There's a question in chat. Troy, I see it. I'm going to get to it in 1 second. You know what? I'm going to detour. Could I give you one suggestion? Gentle and spicy. Yeah, we're going gentle, spicy. We're going spental? Hang on. I want to answer Troy's question because it's really, really good. And then we'll do the gentle advice from the top. I have a question. Could you give me one suggestion to make writing a synopsis not so bad to write? Yes, Troy, I can give you one suggestion. I'd like you to look at Wikipedia plot summary paragraphs. That's a synopsis. Just a straightforward, this happens, 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 done. You're in elementary school. It's a very boring book report. Keep it real simple. The function of a synopsis, by the way, all those publishers out there who are like, I need a synopsis. It's because they want to hand other people in the publishing meeting the synopsis rather than obligating them to read all the manuscripts. Because what they'll end up doing is assigning, I talked about this, I think was it 2 or 3 Mondays ago when we talked about what an editor does? We talked about at a meeting with a spreadsheet. Maybe it was a question in chat. I'm not entirely sure. But we've talked at some point, I remember recording into this microphone, this spreadsheet concept where everybody in a meeting gets assigned a few manuscripts to read, and then the remainder of the submissions will be synopses. So that you're informed about this book, but those who read the manuscript are more informed and will speak more clearly and more definitely about the story's contents. Synopsis is just there to inform people. So you can just write it out with, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. This person shows up. This one has a donut. This one puts their shoes on after the house blows up, blah, 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 blah. How long should the synopsis be? Able to fit in a tweet. Oh, man, no, a synopsis. No. You're looking at like 2 to 5 pages. Synopsis. Are you thinking pitch? Pitch It's worth having a tweet-sized pitch, not just for bullshit contests, but just in general. Having a pitch that's a tweet that you can just tweet. Super useful. But a pitch is going to be, 1 to 4 sentences. Synopsis is going to be pages. 2 to 5? I mean, if you can do it in one, you can do it in one. That's fine. But usually it's 1 to 5, 2 to 5. Because it's covering the whole... A pitch is just there to sort of like lead you in, lure you. Do you want to hear a story about such and such and such and such? Whereas the synopsis is a line item breakdown. This character, that character, this action, that action. Next. Scene. Done. 2 to 5 pages. The old format, when I was learning how to do this, the old format for synopsis was 10 pages. 10 pages and it had subheadings. It was the most over-structured thing in the world. Thank God we don't teach that anymore because it was bananas. If you can get a synopsis into a tweet, either the story's very simple or you've missed something. I'm trying to think even the most nursery rhyme story. I don't think I could fit in a tweet. Maybe. I have to try that tonight. Writing a synopsis is, yes, Troy, it is in fact the worst. No one likes it. No one likes it, but everybody does it. Yeah, an elevator pitch. Elevator pitch, tweet. Subheadings, like Act 2, midpoint. Oh, no, God, no. I wish they were narrative subheadings. No, that would make sense. No, these were subheadings like plot, themes, actions, climax, relationships. It turned every piece of fiction into sort of an academic journal. They were really dry. And they were very unpleasant to write. And they were even more unpleasant to read. Yeah, it sucked. It just plain sucked. And then after a while, especially it started in indie publishing. It started with small and medium-sized presses who were just tell me what happens in the book. And that's how it slowly migrated from 2 to 10 to 2 to 8, then to 2 to 5 pages of just this happens. It's a Wikipedia plot section. That's all. Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare in publishing. This was the early 2000s. This was pre-2010. Where it was just okay, now we're going to have a whole section about the, relationship geometries. Ugh. It was awful. Okay. Good questions. Now we're going to go back to the Spentel, the Jicey. Those portmanteaus are terrible. The very spicy gentle advice. Maybe I should change color on the gentle advice when they're spicy. Maybe we'll change font color when they're spicy. I got to start thinking about the audio-visual components, don't I? Let's do this spicy question again. Gentle advice. I'm afraid of feedback, so I'm always making new projects instead of finishing things, so that people will be excited for me rather than critical of me. Do you have any advice? Yes. You ready? I'd like you to stop being a writer. I'd like you to find a different creative outlet for your activities. I'm serious. I'd like you to find something else that fulfills you and scratches that itch in your soul. Because you're making a very fundamental mistake, and you were assuming that all feedback is criticism, as though feedback is not the umbrella under which criticism and supportive information both sit. You are assuming that all feedback is therefore bad feedback. And if I were to guess one step further, it's probably because you assume you aren't worth receiving positive feedback because you're just not used to having somebody say nice things to you and mean it. So you're afraid of feedback. And if you're afraid of feedback, this is not the creative outlet for you because feedback is baked into every part of this process. Whether we're talking about critique partners or beta readers or editors or pimps, agents, or publishers, or publishing editors, or number of stars on websites, or book bloggers, or reviewers, or algorithms, or 1-inch columns in journals and stuff. Feedback is baked into the storytelling process because the storytelling process is fundamentally a social one. We are the descendants of those who gathered around campfires and pointed to cave walls and said, "Here we mark the journey of the mammoth we hunted." The feedback they received, the hoots, hollers, stamps, claps, cheers, that's feedback. People have been giving 5 stars and thumbs up and, following, liking, subscribing, and clicking the bell for notifications since way back in the Thog hit mammoth with rock days. Like, that's just part of this process. And believe me, we should have all liked, followed, and subscribed Thog. His content was fucking baller. But feedback's part of this. We can't escape the feedback. If you want to write and receive no feedback whatsoever, it's guaranteeing you will never get criticism, write and tell no one. Tell no one that you wrote. Tell no one that you are writing. Tell no one that you finished. Offer no reading. Just write and shelve it. There's nothing wrong with that. But you will not be published that way. You can't have this both ways. You can't say you want to be a published author where Oprah comes. It is called a diary. That is true. That's a very good point. I didn't even think of that. There is no scenario where you write something that no one knows you wrote, and then suddenly the truck comes backed up to your door with a big giant cardboard check and like, hey, here's $1 bajillion. Feedback is part of this process. And criticism is a part of feedback. So, first of all, some criticism is entirely subjective, including and not limited to editorial feedback. So let's say I'm your editor. It's just hypothetically, right? And I flag a sentence like, hey, I think you can cut this. Maybe because it's overwritten, maybe because you don't need it, maybe because it's just in the way, whatever reason I give, right? I think you can cut it. If you don't want to cut it, you don't have to cut it. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not going to sit there and hold a grudge. I'm too old and tired, and I've been doing this too long. If you just say, nah, I'm not cutting it, that's fine. It's fine. I don't care. We're going to move on. Not all criticism, and this is equally true from rejection letters and feedback and beta readers and people writing Amazon bullshit reviews and whatever else. Not all feedback needs to be acted on. You can solicit it. You can, ask 10 people for their comments and act on none of them. That's fine. Just because it's critical doesn't mean you have to oh my God, they want me to change this. I better change it. Who gives a shit? Do you want to change it or not? It's up to you. Now, let's attack another part of this. Because not all feedback is criticism. Some feedback is positive. Some feedback is well-intended and constructive. Sometimes it'll actually help you to listen. Sometimes, yes, when I say, hey, I think you can cut it, it's in your best interest to cut it. Because I'm looking at the greater picture. Sometimes when a beta reader says, I think you switched names here, they're trying to help you. It's okay if you assume the positive in people's intentions and in their efforts. It's really going to be okay if you assume the positive. I know for some of us that seems very foreign because the idea of appearing emotional and vulnerable at the same time just screams weakness because we are used to a level of trauma, anxiety, or abuse. I know. I hear you. But at the same time, sometimes it's just feedback and people want to help. Now, let's attack another part of this. you're a writer. You work really hard at whatever it is you're doing, all the things you're doing. But I'm going to tell you something. And you're probably not expecting it to come from this guy on the internet with a microphone. But I'm going to tell you anyway. It's not your job to make everybody happy. It's not your job to make sure everybody's happy. It's not your job to make sure that the boat doesn't rock. It's not your job to make sure that everybody's always excited so that they're not stressed out. It's not your job to try and fix everything. I understand that it feels great when everybody's very excited for you. I understand that it feels awesome when people are celebrating whatever success or accomplishment you've had. I know. I get it. There's literally a channel on my Discord called Accomplishments and Celebrations because I want to get people in the habit of saying they've done good things. And I know how good that feels. But it is not your requirement as a writer to make sure you always have a good thing. You're okay. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to not have an exciting moment. And I'll go one further with this. You've got this book, and you're struggling with it. The positive, oh my God, you did it response. Hey, you pushed through. Hey, you finished it. That response is going to far overshadow any amount of, oh my God, you're doing a new thing excitement you could ever get. Because a reward after effort, praise after effort, always exceeds praise or reward after intention. Because you will have put in work. Because it will have more value to you. It will matter more to you. You don't have to constantly keep people excited in order for them to care about you. You don't have to constantly have a new thing so that people will still like you or love you or listen to you or want to be next to you or talk to you or whatever. Feedback is part of this process. Not everybody's going to give you critical feedback, and the people that give you critical feedback, not all of that critical feedback is definite and needs to be acted on and is true. All feedback, even that stuff tempered by experience, tempered by education, tempered by observation, tempered by fucking whatever. All of that feedback is somehow rooted in some kind of human opinion of experience. And it's up to you to interpret that. It's up to you to figure out what to do with it. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to act on it. My hope for you, person who asked me this question, who I know for a fact is listening to this, my hope for you is that you just keep writing because you want to keep writing because you want to see the project done. Not because you are chasing the particular praise from particular people. Because I hate to tell you this, those people you want praise from don't give a shit about what you're doing because it is outside their wheelhouse. You are asking a goldfish to understand quantum physics. So instead of doing it for them, I am urging you to do it for you. If you want to be that better writer, if you want to be that kind of creative, then understand that feedback is always part of this process. And your ability to weather and temper and survive feedback directly speaks to the longevity and productivity of this career. And if that sounds like it's just too much, then find a different hobby. I can tell you right now on Pinterest, some really popular stuff is candle making, dice making, working with resin. You'd be great at that. But if you're going to stick around, if you're going to keep writing, feedback's going to happen. It's going to have to. That's my advice for you. Now, while I was ranting, Troy says he remembers the first feedback he got on his first manuscript, and it hurt so bad. Yes. But now that I'm on my third book, you get used to it. You do. The things people said to me in my first 3 years of this job deeply hurt. And I did horrible things in order to make that pain go away. And now, decades later, when I get that same sort of feedback, I just kind of nod my head. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Cool. Right? Because you just get used to it. That's not because you're a terrible person then and you're a terrible person now. It's just, you just get used to it. I'll give you an example before we go. If you're a freelancer in this industry, whether you're an editor, a copy editor, a developmental editor, a book layout person, a cover artist, whatever, if you do anything where you have to put yourself sort of out there professionally and hang your shingle, you will deal with rejection. Do you know the number of times I've been told I'm too expensive? I'm expensive. I know I'm expensive. I'm practically proud of it because I know the quality I deliver. And I've worked hard to reach that point where I can consistently deliver that quality. But I must get told on like a daily basis, oh, that's too expensive. Okay, cool. It just happens. It's fine. Have a good day. Thanks for coming in. If I were a brick and mortar shop and you thought my price is too high, I'd thank you for coming in and send you down the street to somebody else. Maybe get what you want. I'm not going to suddenly haggle over the price of the cold cuts. You know what I'm saying? Feedback is a thing. It hurt because it was true. Yes, Troy, sometimes the stuff that hurts is true. Such is life. But in the end, we choose to hear it or not, and we choose to do something about it or not. There you go. Other questions? Zoom? No, we're good. Zoom? Yes? Cool. Twitch? Comrades? Let me grab my calendar. Cool. All right. Shall we? Oh my God, it's overtime. Shall we go to the outro? Let's go to the outro. No, that's not the outro. That's the outro. Oh, man. That was one hell of a night, wasn't it? That was great. We talked about many things. We had spicy, gentle advice. We had heavy-duty, spicy, gentle advice. We got to talk about classism, shockingly. We got to talk about synopses and pitches and all different kinds of stuff. This was great. I loved this. This made me very happy. Thank you so much for being here. Yet again, as per usual, you guys really do save my life. I'm so thankful for all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this. Zoom, thanks for being here. YouTube in the future, thanks for checking this out. If you liked this, if you want to see more stuff like this, oh man, the best thing you can do, jump on that Patreon, patreon.com/JohnHelpsYouCreate, and absolutely positively, you're going to make this stuff happen. You also get exclusive access to the Discord, where you get to see how the cool sausage gets made, and you get to see all the stuff I'm doing that isn't just limited to streaming. The next time I'm here, right here, streaming for you in your ears, will be Monday, December the 13th. The month will be half over. December the 13th. The topic, I don't know. We'll find out together. I'll announce it shortly. I have to choose. And the next time I will be right here for a chat. Next time we'll be here for a chat is a Wednesday, December the 15th. Yeah, it's going to be good. Until then, until we talk next, know that I love you, know that I care about you. All power to all people. You matter. Never forget that. Never forget how good you are. Never forget how good you can be. Please take care of yourself. Love other people. Please wash your goddamn hands. Do the best you can to take care of yourself and somebody else. Take your meds, drink some water, get some rest. Know that you're valued. Know that somebody out there cares about you. Please keep creating. Please keep fighting fascism in all its corners and covers. Do your best to lift yourself and other people up. And I will talk to you very, very soon. See ya!